So, hey, Meadow Hands, I'm Lucy, and Meadow is the law. Today, I have the pleasure to interview the singer, guitarist, and the leader of Phalanx, Thanatos. So, welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you for the interview. And my first question is Hellenic Meadow is the debut length album of Phalanx, and with a conceptual idea based on the Greek mythology. So please tell us about your Greek roots and explain us the concept of the album, please.
Okay, my Greek roots are in Thessaloniki, and the second greatest town in Greece. And I was born here in Germany, and I was raised up here, but I still am only a Greek citizen. I take myself as a Greek, and I love my culture and my history. And what I was missing in the metal scene in general was that Greek history or mythology or whatever is always shown as something classic, with like Manowar, with choruses and worshipping gods, worshipping heroes. And this is not our concept. Our concept is to show the Greek culture, to show the ways Greeks think and their habits, their traditions. And we try to avoid worshipping heroes and gods and saying names and bringing out the stuff like, example, Manowar does a good job. I'm a fan of Manowar, but I don't like the cliche type of showing things. And Phalanx is exactly hitting this point. We don't make cliches. We're singing about the culture, we're singing about the ways of thinking, we're singing about war scenes, maybe some mythology stuff, but basically it's more a culture thing. And this is what I want to stress. The culture thing is the highest priority we have. And this is why we avoid calling heroes names. This is why I avoid to, I don't know, name Alexander or name all the gods, or I don't know. We avoid this stuff because people would say, okay, again a Greek, again Alexander, again Achilles, and things like that. And this is what we avoid. We just don't want to do cliche stuff. We want to just show more the culture thing. And so it's not just only mythology. Maybe on the debut album, the mythology is even not so much. We have less mythology in there. Some parts of it maybe the beliefs of the man in some gods or something in special situations, but we still try to show what he's believing and why he's saying that and the situation he's in. And so we often use Homeric scenes. Homer has created these books, Troy and the Odyssey. And we try to bring to life war scenes of the Homeric times and the things people have, the way people were thinking at that time, which I personally believe still exists today. It's still part of our culture, although maybe 4,000 years have passed, but it's still there. And this is what Phalanx expresses.
Cool. So Phalanx has a very specific sound. I should say raw and direct.
Yeah.
Is that combination you guys want to keep from for the next albums?
Yes, indeed. This is a typical character of Phalanx. We won't change that thing. We might maybe because we're a little bit not beginners, but we are still fresh, and we learn always. It's of course a process, a development, and with some techniques we might we strive to get a bit harder than the first album. It was already hard, but we try to play more harder and more techniques, And so it might be that he technically advanced a little bit more, but this character will still remain this raw thing, the super hard thing, not so many, what's it called? I don't know, some guitarists have thousands of pedals. We don't do that, we don't put everything in it, or I don't know. We keep it really completely raw, just distorted and with a super hard voice. And what is the typical character of a band is that we are an 80s driven band. The reason is because I'm probably the 80s man. I'm over 50 years old. And I lived the 80s. When 1980, I was 12 years old, and I already heard some bands in the time, and I was heavily influenced by them. My son, who is the drummer of this band, of course, was completely influenced by me. He was listening every day when you brought him to school or somewhere. He had to listen to my 80s heavy metal shit in the car. But the funny thing is, when I turned it off, he started crying. He said, "What you doing? I want to hear it." And so, although he has some modern metal bands that he likes to listen to, he still sticks to the old stuff. And even if he hears something of the 80s, which he cannot name it, which band or which title it is, but he knows it. He heard it already somewhere in my car. So he was growing up with it, and he is supporting me with anything he has and he can to play that 80s style. And we have that so-called 80s drive, and we are not going to give it up or trying to change in a different direction. With the forthcoming album, we might play or go more in speed metal. But the character will still remain the same.
Okay, yeah, that's good. That's what makes Phalanx unique. Yeah.
Yes.
Good.
I hope so.
Yeah. So I've heard. I've heard you were working on new compositions for the new album. So could you review some details for us? You have done already, but would you like to say something else?
Yes, the forthcoming album is not 100% ready, but almost. Some stuff is still missing. I think we have, I didn't count it, but it must be 9 tracks. It will be about 1 hour of material. As I said previously, it will probably go more in the direction of speed metal. And we had some speed stuff in the first album, but this time it's more, just a bunch of more, has more drive, probably more freshy elements than before. And the whole concept about this album will be the view of the god Thanatos, as I name myself, the god of Thanatos, god of death. We grab the view of Thanatos because as he takes the souls down to Hades, he has seen everything. He has seen the heroes die. He has seen normal people die because he carries their souls down to the underworld. And this album has the concept that he is telling his tales, but still in this position, he's more showing the way of thinking, what they do, what they believe. And there are some strong elements of taking vengeance or being just in a fight and all that stuff, and Homeric stuff again. And he's talking about it. And the basic subject will be death in that case. We have one exception where we name a person of that time, which is an Amazon queen called Penthesilea. We call her by her name because we respect that woman. She was fighting to die because she lost her sister accidentally. She killed her while hunting. She couldn't kill the animal, instead she killed her sister by accident. And that's a really nice story. And she wanted to fight just to
kill herself.
To kill herself, but she wanted to die with honor. She wanted to die fighting. And this is the only exception where we really name that hero,
Okay.
which in this case is not Greek. She's an Amazon, and she's and she's not Greek.
Okay.
So this is the first exception we have, but it's a cool thing because we show a respect to a person who died in this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. So Phalanx has been growing and becoming famous here in Stuttgart area. And how has been your performance like?
We had some great success before the Corona time, of course. Now we're starting up again freshly to consider where we play and where we perform. But before the fucking Corona came up, we had some great success playing, for instance, at the Rock Fabric in Ludwigsburg. That was the first time in our band's history that we should play as a headliner. And since that time, we always play as a headliner. It's not a curse. It's not what we ask for it, but people want it that way. And from there, you can see the success we have.
For sure.
We didn't have so much gigs, but we really started up real quickly up high. We're still undergrounders, okay, but we're working on it to reach a brighter audience.
Nice. Okay, and how did you get into metal?
Oh,
You kind of spoke a little bit about it, but could you give more details?
Okay, when I was a kid, as I said, 12 years old, it was around 1980. I always was falling for heavy rhythms, and it started in reality with my mother. She was always listening to Elvis Presley and Beatles and things like that, and there I got my start. But when I heard somewhere some more heavy things, I don't know what was at the time, maybe Paranoid of Black Sabbath or some Kiss stuff or some AC/DC stuff, and so I felt something inside of me that it touches me. It was somehow inside me, and my feelings go with it. And I always loved it. And one day, a person had a an LP, with black discs, the records at that time, and he was listening to Crocus. The title of the album was Heavy Metal Rendezvous. Metal Rendezvous, I guess. And it was so fascinating to hear this. It was really hard thing. And when I moved on, and I had a friend, we were playing chess every day before after school, and he had a record, and he was playing Deep Purple, and that was one thing that I love to hear too. That's Made in Japan live album. And so I always moved a little bit on. Then someday I had enough money to buy my own records. Started up with Kiss and AC/DC and things like that. I know that people make today differences. It's hard rock, it's heavy metal, but for me,
at that time,
it was heavy metal, and heavy metal is a term which belongs to the 70s, not even to the 80s. So this, for me personally, this is a bunch of bullshit to make differences just because they didn't have distortion pedals at that times and didn't sound that hard like bands today. Okay, that's my opinion. I know that other people see it different, but this is my opinion. And so I got straight into metal with it stuff. And when I was going around 16, 17, we had already guys in the neighborhood playing at our school in the cellar and making heavy metal. I was going with them. I played the roadie and things like that. And by the time I got 18, 19, I started up singing. I wasn't able to play guitars. I couldn't even imagine to play guitars. That's a new thing which happened with Phalanx. And so I was even singing in bands. Yeah, and I continue that. I never changed. I became once heavy metal, and I stay metal.
Yeah, that's it.
And I will die metal.
Like that. Okay. For sure. We all.
Yes.
Good. So, what are your main metal influences as a musician?
Okay, I probably said some stuff. Okay, there was lots
Mm-hmm.
of Kiss and AC/DC, and later on, Iron Maiden was influencing me deeply because of the vocals. They
Okay.
had two good singers. We still have the one, the first one, Paul Diano, was
Yeah.
influencing me a lot because he had a great feeling when singing. He was not a good singer or a very well singer like Bruce Dickinson, but he had
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
feeling. He could
Yeah.
his
Yeah.
expression was
He's
unique.
good on his way. I mean. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And Bruce Dickinson had these techniques. Also, Rob Halford from Judas Priest, it was very influencing
Mm-hmm.
because he had that fucking aggressiveness. The high tones he could sing really in an aggressive way. And I love Judas Priest. And yeah, and I had so many bands. I like some American bands also, like
Mm-hmm.
Poison and Kiss. I like, or even the party stuff. I have no
Wow.
problem with that. I like them. And but I tend more to the real heavy stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
this is more Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, and all the bands that came later, Metallica,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. The thrash metal time, it came in the late
Okay.
'80s, and yeah, I continue to listen to most of the '80s heavy metal bands.
Mm-hmm.
And in later years, I listened to Gravedigger. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's one
Grave
of my
Digger.
favorite bands.
I would say
Yeah,
about.
and
I would ask about Grave Digger.
yeah, so there are many bands to mention,
Yeah.
but it's basically more the '80s bands. I
Yeah.
don't like that much the modern bands,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't really consider them necessarily harder.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I think they mess it up. The hardness gets a little bit
Yeah. Okay.
lost.
Okay. Okay. And are there also influences out of metal? If so, which ones?
It's really difficult.
Yeah.
Okay,
If you have them, if you don't have.
I listen rarely to other sorts of music, really rarely. But
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem to listen to classic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
classic music. It's really fabulous. And I sometimes listen to some old Greek stuff, maybe from my grandparents. Okay, this something that's touching me because I think of my grandparents.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and the stuff my mother was listening to, I like rock and roll in general, because heavy metal is rock and roll. Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
So I can listen to blues, I can listen to rock and roll. I love the old Elvis Presley, not the new one, the old one.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Beatles too, and things like that, the 60s, 50s rock and roll. It's okay for me, but I'm really not listening every day to it. This
Mm-hmm.
is something that happens rarely.
Mm-hmm.
This is most of the time the trouble I have in my car because everybody's complaining. I'm listening only heavy metal all the time, and they start yelling at me. Don't you listen to something else? Maybe
Yeah.
something we could listen to.
But you can listen to heavy metal.
So I always tell them you will find in heavy metal anything of styles that even would match to you, but they won't believe
Yeah,
me.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay. And now, yeah, now I have the situation that is so famous here on Matters Law.
Mhm.
That is, suppose you are a bad guy and you got in trouble and had life imprisonment as a sentence, and you can have nothing with you but 3 albums.
That's a bad question. It's a really bad
Yeah,
question.
that you can listen for the rest of your life because one of the guardians of the prison is a nice guy and give you them as a gift. So which albums would you choose and why? This is the time that I have fun.
Okay, I would suggest that the one album I mentioned from Crocus, the Metal Rendezvous.
Mhm.
It's really old, but it's a great recording. The way it was recorded is really super. You can hear every instrument in every corner. The stereophony is
Mhm.
perfect, and of course the stuff I play. So that's really one thing. I would always listen all my life. You can always listen to this album.
Mhm.
It never gets old in a certain way. No, the other two are really difficult.
Yeah.
I should kill you. Uh, hmm. Maybe the Judas Priest, the one where we're breaking the laws on it.
Mm.
I forgot how it's called.
Yeah. Me
Breaking
too.
the law, and there's some other good stuff. Really good tracks on this album. I believe people know which album I
Yeah,
mean.
most probably.
British Steel.
Yeah.
British Steel.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so many other albums, but I would. That's really difficult. There's one album from Gravedigger. That's a black one with the Gravedigger on the front.
Okay.
It's completely black.
Completely black.
Yeah. I think it's called Gravedigger. Gravedigger, and the title is the Gravedigger.
Ah, okay. So then it's a very an old one.
Yeah, this album was a concert album, I guess, for the Edgar Allan Poe subjects and his stories. It was full with Edgar Allan Poe stories, and this is really good one. That's really
Yeah, this
heavy metal of
album.
its finest.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So great.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Good. And to finish our interview, would you like to leave a message to your fans who are watching or listening to us?
Yeah, guys. I know we had this shit fucking Corona all the time, but now it's over. I hope we will see you again. We would like to present you our new album, the new tracks we have, and you will really be surprised. There are some changes in the band as well, and I believe that we will really have a fun time with some really super hard stuff. And I can't wait to see you all again and be on stage and rock with you. And just be patient a little bit because we got some issues. I personally have some health issues, but I will get over with it. And we will come back, and then we're gonna burn everything down.
Yeah.
Just wait for it.
Yeah. Okay, so
And
thanks.
stay metal.
Yeah,
Don't
yeah,
forget
yeah,
to
yeah,
stay metal.
for sure. So thanks again
You're
for the
welcome.
interview and for your time. And thank you all for watching and listening to us. And stay heavy.
Stay heavy.